Hi, this is David Hansel, aka Dancing Bear, and welcome to the introductory session of the class I put together of the warrior archetype, embracing the warrior within, embracing the warrior archetype. We'll get into archetypes a little bit better, or a little bit later, I should say. This is basically the introduction of what a warrior is and why it behooves one to embrace the warrior lifestyle. The music playing in the background is from a DVD called Crossing Paths. It's a combination of Native American flute and didgeridoo. The pendant I'm wearing, if you're wondering what happened to my yin yang, it's right here. It just hangs a little bit lower now. It's on a new cord. But this one here, as you can tell, it's a sword. Doing a warrior video, I thought, I'll put on my warrior's pendant. But this is called the Sword of Macnanan Maclear. Macnanan Maclear is our sea god, and this has various symbols you can see on the hilt here. Dragons and a pentacle up there, and some Celtic knotwork and so forth. The shirt I'm wearing, by the way, you see that gentleman's picture on it there. Just picked this up recently. I don't know the correct pronunciation, but it says Goetle. He's better known by the name the Mexicans gave him, which is Geronimo. Bought this from a friend of mine recently, so a warrior shirt too. Now, what is a warrior? Well, I'm going to again quote Karakuhulan. As I mentioned before, soldiers and warriors are two different things. And his quote pretty much sums it up. This is the complete quote. Soldiers march, warriors dance. Soldiers act, warriors choose. Now, a soldier, I'm going to say again, when I use the term soldier, I use it generically. In the United States, of course, we have divided military. It's part of the checks and balance system, as I see it. So when I say soldier, I'm talking about Army, a Navy sailor, an Air Force airman, a Marine, guardsman in the Coast Guard or National Guard, even a medic. Maybe not so much a medic, but to some extent a medic as well. When I use the term soldier, I'm talking about all those. Soldier and a warrior are two different things. There are soldiers who choose, or I should say there are warriors who choose to become soldiers because they believe that a certain war or something is the right thing. But there are people, or I should say that, just because someone goes into the military doesn't make them a soldier, especially if they've been drafted. They're going kind of against their will. Now, these days you think, well, it's a volunteer army. Well, yeah, to some extent, but if you look at a lot of the people that are in there, they're in there because they're from, I'd say, the lower middle class, even lower than that, and they don't feel that they have much of a choice. It's their way of getting an education. They're trading. It's a business. It's a job. Once again, they're soldiers, not warriors. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that's the path they've taken, the path of a soldier. It's something different. The term warrior, some people become warriors while they are in the military. Some people become warriors after the military. Some people, like myself, has nothing to do with military. The term warrior is actually a much broader term as well. It can refer to civilians. The butcher at the corner meat market could be a warrior without having ever served in the military. Some people, out of their own cultural background, embracing that, Native Americans would be a good example. Not be warriors, once again, without serving in the military. Protesters are a good example of warriors, modern-day warriors. Those who stand up for the rights anywhere. Well, you get the idea, basically. I'm going to read to you a couple of definitions here. I don't have Dan Millman's definition, which is, of course, he specifies the type of warrior, peaceful warrior. And that's really the type of person we're looking to be, or the archetype we're embracing here. And in his book, Scholar Warrior, by Damien Dow, he brings out that the way of the scholar warrior is a method of achieving personal excellence while still in this world. Follow the way of the scholar warrior and gain a balanced and healthy life. Now, there's a bit more to it than that. Of course, we have Kerkobulin's simplified definition there, or poetic definition, I should say, not really simplified. But let me read this off to you, too. In the introduction, or I should say, the very first chapter of his book, he covers what is a warrior. In that book being this one right here, Weekend Warrior, Kerkobulin. He also has another book, well, actually, it's an internet book called Modern Knighthood. Just came out, very similar. And hope if he reads this, he doesn't, or sees this, he doesn't mind my quoting from his book, especially since I gave him full credit. And I lost the page that I wanted to use. So here it is, right here. In the early part of the book, what is a warrior? A warrior is a person who, through objective and thorough self-examination, develops an understanding of personal talents and limitations. As a warrior, you then achieve your goals using a combination of this self-awareness and willpower to overcome weaknesses, fears, and limitations. And in the very first chapter of the book, like I said, the very first chapter is called What is a Warrior? He quotes a great line from Dune, Bene Gesserit, talking to Paul. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. Where the fear has gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. Again, about dealing with fear. And another quote here, he quotes Don Juan Matus speaking to Carlos Castaneda. A true warrior, as the Brujo Don Juan Matus often pointed out to his pupil Carlos Castaneda, sorry for the redundancy there, has a purpose and will. To become a warrior is to take charge of the process of change, to begin a journey of self-discovery and transformation. So as you can see, yes, there are some people who go become soldiers and already being warriors. That's part of their transformation process. Other people go through the process without even doing that. A healer can be a warrior, a doctor, a nurse can be a warrior. Does martial arts involve? Ideally, yes, but not necessarily. The reason I say martial arts is even though I'm against warfare, I'm against violence, people do have to defend themselves. And also, I believe wholeheartedly, I've said this for years, violence is not an action. There's no such thing as an act of violence, really. Well, I take that back. Yes, there is something of an act of violence, but violence is more attitude than action. As I put on Facebook recently, it's a malicious attitude enacted. You have to have the willingness to do harm to someone. And usually that involves some maliciousness. You want to hurt them. The person says, I don't want to hurt you, but I'll defend myself. They're not being violent. They're just doing what they need to do to protect themselves or their family or loved ones or someone else. Does not necessarily involve violence. If you study the right forms of self-defense, such as Aikido or Jiu-Jitsu, or emphasize the Chin-Na techniques of various Chinese martial arts, you don't have to hit someone. Most important is to avoid getting hit. Secondly is to be able to restrain the person from hitting you or someone else. You may want to hit them in terms of to neutralize their abilities as a way of stunning them, to then put a hold on them. Or, if a situation calls for it where it's one where escape is the best course of action for you, then you would want to stun them in such a way to do that. Some people feel you can only do so by knocking a person out. You kind of have to go by the situation. That's not a generic. It doesn't always have to be that way. So basically, I had to believe in self-defense. What if a person is protesting and are accosted by a police officer? I believe in peaceful protest. You don't want to resort to violence in such situations, or when I say it's not violence, right? Also, I think if something is done with indifference, it's also violence. I said malicious before. Indifference is just as bad. Indifference is itself a violent attitude, and once again, you take action based on indifference. That can be considered violent action. Sorry if it sounds contradictory. It's not contradictory. What it is, it's a paradox. It's very paradoxical. And what we're talking about here, I gotta check the time on here. Okay. Yeah, what we're talking about here is a certain amount of discretion. Indifference on the part of policemen and so forth leads to doing the wrong thing, the wrong reasons. A protester will be very passionate in what they believe, but if you do act to defend yourself, you're in a public situation, a very volatile situation, a riot can ensue. And you don't want that. And you don't want people to be able to point the finger and say, oh yeah, see the hypocrisy of the so-called peaceful protesters. So you want to, go in there with the idea that you may get hit. Gandhi, when he did his protests and so forth, he knew he was going to get beaten up, but he did it anyway. It was just, it was a very brave thing to do. So that's a bit on the warrior lifestyle, or what it means to be a warrior. A warrior archetype, well, like I said, we'll get into that a little bit later. That's basically having a model, either fictional or real life, or both. You don't have to have just one or two, you can have several. And just something to, pattern yourself after a little bit. But the most important is that it comes from in here. It's all about you. Being yourself is part of being a warrior. And that's what we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about various traditions. We're going to dispel some of the myths about warriors. We're going to talk about warrior codes such as chivalry and bushido, and draw some parallels between warrior codes. Talk about the various myths and so forth. And by myths, I mean classical mythology. So, hope this is giving you a little bit of perspective, and I will see you again soon. Take care.